Good morning, everybody. It's Tom Christie back in the workshop, and this will be session 4 of carving a pair of buffleheads. In the previous sessions, we got everything band sawed out. We've got the heads detailed. I did do a little light sanding on the eye fill area to get that taken care of, so the heads are ready to go. And in this session, we'll be focused on roughing out the bodies. And one benefit of working on a pair at the same time is if I have a tool set up to carve the tail area of this bird, I can quickly switch to the other bird, not have to change tools and get that work done. So if you're doing similar work on 2 different decoys, it's kind of an efficient way to carve if you're carving a pair. So hey, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything to do that, and that way you'll get notification of additional content as I continue to build the channel, or you can opt out of that if you prefer not to get email notification of a new video that's been posted. So let's get going on this bufflehead pair. As usual, we'll start with a little layout work. I've got the hen's tail in an up position, still relatively low to the water like a diver, but I like that position for this particular head and kind of a perky pose for the hen. And then the drake's got his tail closer to the water in a little more typical diver position. So we'll start by before I start rounding things, I want to map out the distance from the bottom of the decoy to the top of the tail. Mark that on my decoy on both sides, and then use my pencil. I know that's where the tail comes into the body, and I want to leave some thickness in that tail since this is will not be used in the field, but it's more of a gunning style decoy. So we want to leave a little beef in the tail. So I'll do that for the drake as well. Let's see how close this dimension is. It's right on the same dimension as the hen. I just got lucky there. So mark that position, do the same thing here with the drake. And that way we have those lines kind of mapped out as we begin rounding things and can keep the tail configuration in mind. I've also sketched out the head positions for both. This drake is going to be in kind of a just forward facing, tucked down. I really want that nice relaxed attitude on the drake. The hen is going to have her head up a little bit, not much neck, still a low head configuration, but I've put circle on there, the width of the neck, to give me a guideline. As we start to remove material, then we want to leave that shelf in place. Same thing with the drake here. As we're rounding the breast, I don't want to start gouging into this area because then the head will be undercut in that area, and I don't want that. I also did a quick measurement from my reference here to get the tail feather length on both the hen and the drake, and then that'll give me a target for where the coverts meet the tail feathers back here, so I don't want to grind back into this area. Just a few more layout details before we get started. The drake's primaries are going to be in a crossed position, So I just roughed sketched on the body here roughly where those are going to fall. And that'll just give me some guidance as I'm removing and rounding material back here. I don't want to take off too much material in the primary area. The hen is going to be in kind of a relaxed position with her primary feather tips not crossed and just kind of laying side by side. So just keeping that in mind, and I can remove material out here as I round. The other thing, I want a little bit of the secondary feather group here or speculum showing. So I don't want to round too much in this area because I need to leave enough wood. These are the types of things it's helpful to think about before I just start rounding everything off, because I may find that I don't have enough wood left to create that structure that I want to on the hen. On the drake, I just love the clean lines of the drake, and I don't want to pull anything out. I just want to have clean side pockets, that beautiful black and white feather configuration that we'll talk about later. And so no speculum out on the drake. Now I'm going to use that round nose 3/4 inch saber tooth burr and the Fordham and use that to do some general rounding of both of these birds. So I'm going to show segments of each of these and try not to repeat too much, and I'll speed up the video so we can get through it quicker. But I do want to show enough of the carving that you get a good feel for what I'm doing to get this rough rounding done. I'm working in the breast area here, and there's kind of a groove that runs down from the cape and the back so that the breast, there's a little separation between the side pocket and the breast. So I'll work on that in a minute here. Now I'm just rounding the side pocket area in general so there are no flat spots. And that's that cape area where it comes down to the breast. And we want a little bit of an indentation there. The angle of the cape kind of carries on down into the breast, right in that area. Now I'm working the other side, so I'll skip through this part of the video. Now I'm rounding that breast on that side, creating that groove that we talked about before. Rounding things below. Now I'm going to move to the back and keeping in mind where those primaries are located, begin to cut material out on each side of the primaries and round that area down to the tail coverts. Now looking at the tail area, I'm going to use that to remove material from the tail and leave the coverts area in place, and also the center line of the tail. We don't want to grind that off. And I'm taking that down to the side profile that we drew in before when we did our layout work, and then rounding the coverts area there. I'll do that on the opposite side as well. Same process, removing material beside the primaries. Just taking a lot of material out of that area. Then I'm going to work the tail on the opposite side, same process, cutting that down to our guidelines. leaving the center line of the tail intact, but removing down to and rounding the coverts. Just finish up with some general rounding, and that's about all I want to do in this first rough pass. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the hen, and we won't watch all of this video. I'll just skip through a lot of this, but just making the point that it's easy now to go to the next decoy with the same bit in place and do what we just did on the drake. Follow the same process on the hen. So skipped forward, and we've got the body rounded in general. Now I want to, the primaries are in a different configuration on the hen, so I'm using the bit to create kind of a hard line to begin to form where the primary drops down on each side. And then rounding, taking material out of that area. Same on the opposite side to kind of define where that primary heads down and into the side pocket area. Now I'll pick up the other side of that tail and just finishing up the rounding of the hen's body here. So that gives you a little bit on the hen as well, and try to focus on the differences between the two. Now we're going to work the underside of the tail. I've penciled in the target area, and we're going to use this cylindrical saber-tooth burr to remove material on the underside of the tail and kind of create the rump underneath the tail feathers. And I'm taking this down to hit the guideline on the side in both directions. Just go with caution here so you don't slip off, because I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on the bit here. You just have to take it slow. Once I have the guideline, then I'm just going back and rounding the rump area under there. Now just flip the bird around, just doing the other side, rounding that underneath the tail. And now while I'm set up with that bit, I'm just going to flip over to the hen and do the same thing. So I won't repeat all of that. There's one difference in the hen that I do want to show you here in just a second. Just getting the hen's underside of the tail finished up there. Now I'm going to use that same bit, and the hen has a little bit more of a cupped shape in the tail. So I'm using that cylindrical bit to work the tail profile a little deeper in the middle on the underside on the hen. And so it forms a cup shape from the rear. The drake's tail is a little flatter since it's lower to the water. The hen has a little bit of a cup shape, and I just wanted to show you that specific thing on the hen. Just give you another view of that from the rear of the bird. So that looks pretty good. Now we'll just stop for a second. You can see the bodies are generally rounded, so we've removed a lot of unnecessary wood, but I wanted to make the point they're fairly well rounded in this condition before we start to add any side pocket details. So just avoid flat spots on the side pockets in the back as much as possible. Very few flat spots on a duck. So now we're going to do some more layout work and define where the primaries need to be. begin to shape those up and then do the layout work for the side pockets from both a side profile and a down profile, and get that pencil work done next. All right, we'll lay out the side pocket positions first. I use the calipers for this. It really works well because this can go under the decoy. The divider's a little more challenging to use for this. So I'm looking at from the bottom of the decoy to the top of the side pocket. Then I can just tuck that under there and press in, and I know right there is the top of the side pocket. And I do that on both sides so that there's symmetry. Then I'm going to pick this low spot where it dips down up near the front of the wing on the side pocket. Give myself a guideline there. I'm not looking for a precise location. I just know generally that's where it's going to end up. So, and I know that's the back of the side pocket right there from my pattern from band sawing. This is going to duck down here, and then there's a little bit of a return back up here. Get a dimension for that and put myself a guideline up somewhere in that location. I may adjust these later. I'm following my guidelines here, and then there's a return underneath here on both sides. Now let's do the top-down view. I'll just do the drake. This process is repetitive, so you can just use the same approach on the hen if you're doing a pair. Now I want to position the cape and how far back it is from the front of the decoy. Get my hand out of the way there. So that's how far the cape is back from the front of the decoy. I'm going to go over here and just, this is kind of a right angle, so it's enough to give me a stopping point. It just helps me locate the front of the decoy that way. And I put a mark there. So I know that's the rear of the cape. Back over here. Now I'm going to take my dividers and get a dimension to the front of the side pocket here, both sides, and transfer that from this anchor point that we already put in place, and draw a little arc. And then to establish where on that line we need to be, I'm going from the center of the bird out to that furthest area of the side pocket. And from the center line again, give myself a guideline there. So in this tucked head position on the drake, that's pretty far forward, that this comes clear up here, which is correct. And the breast, that's why we have this little definition here between the side pocket and the breast. So now I have that position marked. Now I can lay out the top down dimensions. We've already got this dimension established and marked. I want to go to the widest point of the shoulder, I'll call it here. Go from the center line. Note where on the pattern you got that dimension. So it's about an inch forward from this point. So right in here, both sides. and then get a dimension where the side pocket comes up on the back and mark that here. Now I can use those guidelines to kind of pencil in the top down view. And you can see that side pocket wraps around quite a bit from where I have it right now, rough carved. Got to find my pencil marks here. So this is the material we need to remove. I think rather than rush through that hen layout work the way I was planning to originally, I'm going to slow down a little bit because this area is a key difference between the two birds. So let's take some time to lay out this hen where a little bit of the speculum is going to show in the side pocket, and I'll just show you the different approach. If the side pocket is in its normal position, it's going to be that high. So I'm laying this side pocket out right now just as if there's no speculum showing, just to give me a feel for, well, where is that side pocket located under normal conditions when a piece of the wing is not showing. So that gives me a little bit of a guideline. Let's find my other mark. It's up here. So that would be the position of the side pocket if nothing was exposed. So what I want to do is, I know this is the tip of the primary. So this is another area that a lot of people tend to get wrong. I'm just sketching in kind of where the wing lays in the side pocket. The position of those secondary feathers or the speculum, front to back, a lot of people end up putting it way back here or way up here, and getting that located accurately is important. So I'm going to check my reference on that to get a dimension from the tip of the primary to where the speculum starts to show, and make sure I have that penciled in first. So I've got a reference dimension, and I know the speculum starts about right in that position from the tip of the wing. So I want to show just a little bit. These will be the tertials kind of covering things up back here. I want to show a little bit of that in position right here. So I've got to keep that in mind as I'm carving the rest of this. And I'm going to drop the side pocket feathers down a bit in this area and then take them back up to the original plan. So what's happening is the side pocket feathers, these feathers are under this piece of the speculum that's showing, and then they continue on down here. So now I've kind of mapped out, and this feather grouping I'm going to wrap around and have a little undercut here and bump those out a bit. So I kind of got a plan now as I begin carving the details where this feather grouping should reside, and I can start to remove wood a little more confidently, knowing that's where that ends up. This side, I'm just going to do the normal side pocket, so I won't go through that in the video. Now I've done the layout work from the top down view on the hen. This side pocket did just like the drake. And by the way, I added the cape sketched in there. On the drake, there's not going to be much cape showing. On the hen, more back here because of this back head tucked position. The tricky part, and I don't have a hard and fast rule to share with you, is how do I know how deep to cut into here? This you can be confident with. This, we can't take out this much material over here, or you're going to take out where you want the speculum material. So I've just kind of sketched in a loose guideline, and we're going to carve carefully as we approach that area. And we definitely want to define this area up front, and then I'm going to fade that out a little bit and use my artistic intuition as we're sculpting this area back here to make it look right. That's the best I can tell you. You just have to kind of go at it slowly and remove material until it looks right. We're going to want to take it back in far enough that we see this return on the side pocket. The first thing we're going to carve is this feather group here. This will stay out where it is, so that'll remove the lines we've already gotten here, but then we'll re-pencil those in and begin sculpting this area. So I'm going to start with the 3/4 inch diameter saber-tooth cylinder burr. And I don't have the best angle on my camera here, but I'm basically following the top-down guideline and then removing material down to the side pocket profile. There's a little better view. So I'll take 3-4 cuts here to get down to that side pocket profile, and then we can begin rounding things, going back and forth. Now I'm starting to round, making one more cut there in that front position to take it a little lower. And now I'll speed this video up as we begin to round things. I am cutting that lower return in the side pocket there. Now I'm going to make a little cut to lower this area right at the front shoulder. And now I can begin to round the back, feathers of the back. And then flip that around and start rounding the side pocket feathers. So we eliminate all flat spots. Now I'm moving up and putting a little V in the back and defining the cape there. If you've watched my other videos, it's a similar process, and then rounding that area so it's not a sharp V point at the back of the cape. Moving to the other side, similar process, maybe a little better view here. Now I'm just working the top and side profiles until I get them both nailed down, and then rounding from there. It's a little further along. You can see the decoy is starting to take a more round shape overall. Got that finished up, and now I can move to the hen. Similar process, and I've got some additional work on the back here because the primaries are separated back there, and there's a little concaved area. So I'm working through that to form that along with the cape. Now using the edge of that to define the primary flight feathers as they go down into the side pocket. Now this side of the bird, I don't have to worry about the speculum, so I'm just doing very similar to what I did on the drake, so I'll skip through that quickly. Here's a little later view, and I've got that side pocket kind of rounded. Now we can work on this side. For this side of the hen, I want a little more control, so I'm using this 1/4 inch cylindrical burr, and I'm going to use it to start to do the same process we did on the opposite side in the front here. But like we talked about, we're going to be more cautious as we get back to that area closer to the speculum. Now I'm going to use that burr to outline that feather group. Like we said, we want that to be the furthest outboard feather group. So I'm defining that and then rounding it, and then I'll use the burr to undercut that feather group, because that'll cast a nice shadow on that feather group, and we want to make sure it's nice and round. Once we have that established, then I need to remove material from this area to take it down. And we're going to lose the plan pencil work that we did, but that's okay. I've kind of got it positioned where I know it is, and we just need to remove material so that it appears as though this feather group that we defined is overlaying the speculum. So the speculum needs to be at a lower level, so to speak. And then I'm blending that into the back, to the scapulars, and just kind of re-smoothing that now that we've taken that down to a lower level, and then rounding this feather group so it's nice and soft. Once we get this established, then we'll go back and pencil in the speculum again so that we can carve some detail into that area. Okay, now I'm going to pencil in the speculum again so we know where that's supposed to be. And then we'll use our cylindrical burr again to begin to put some definition around that. So I'm kind of outlining that area and then blending into the lower area of the side pocket there. Now I can start to take material out and define the upper edge of the rear of the side pocket there. I haven't sped this video up because there's just a lot going on here, and I want you to see it in real time. Now you can see the shadow cast by the work we did on the speculum, and now I'm taking that tertial group down a notch and then relieving the speculum so it's at a lower level than the tertials that overlay it. Now I'll give you another view here with some downward light so you can see the definition we're creating there. So now we've got a speculum area kind of identified along with the edge of the primaries there. And I might have to do a lot of work to clean this up, but this rough carving is the first step. Now I want to define the upper edge of that rear of the side pocket that we talked about. Now I will speed the video up from here on out just as we continue to work in this area. Just going to use the burr to round things, clean things up, but there's a view of kind of what we've created so far. It's looking good. Now I'm going to use that same burr and further define this upper area in that area between the tips of the primary feathers and take that down to the tail coverts and then create a little recessed area on the back. Now I want to do a little planning work again, and I'm locating the tertials with a dimension from the tip of the primaries to the tip of the tertials. And I'm going to remove material from this area to create the tertials in kind of a raised position off the primaries. Do the same thing on this side. Just pencil in where they're going to lie. And no speculum out on this side, so that primary feathers are just going to tuck into the side pocket. I've got the video sped up here, but I'm just using that cylindrical burr to go in and do some quick cuts to define where the tertials overlay each other, and then do some separation between the primaries and the tertials, taking the primary area down a little bit so it looks like the tertials are laying over the primaries the way they should be. I'll do that on both sides. Kind of skip ahead here, and I'm just cleaning things up. But here's a view. You can see the shadows cast by the layers of the tertials there over the primaries. Now I've got to work on this drake. We've got the hen kind of rough shaped on both sides. And now I want to work on the drake, get these primaries defined. And then I've got a position on each side where you'll see the wing extend down and tuck into the side pocket. And then the tertials will be over the top of that area, about this far from the tip of the primary. So we'll get that started next. Okay, I've got the videos sped up here, and I'm going to use this little 1/4-inch burr to remove that V between the primaries in the rear. I've mentioned this before, be very cautious in this area and go slow, because you're working kind of in the end grain of the wood, and that can have a tendency to snag a burr and make it jump a little bit. So now I'm working down the side and beginning to define where the primaries are and where they follow down and tuck into the side pocket, and then removing material around that whole area. Now I'm removing material from where the primaries cross, and we're going to lower one side so that we can get this angle shape down. You can see right now I have too much of a bend in that primary feather group. It's bowed too much, so I'm going to need to make an adjustment later to correct that. I'm taking this side of the bird down so I can get down to a level that's going to make sense to match up with the other primary tip as it angles under the other primary and down into the side pocket here. So we got to take quite a bit of material off this side to make that geometry work so they match up well. That's where I'm continuing that. Now I'm going to begin to create the hard edge of the primary feather group as it goes down into the side pocket. And this is kind of an iterative process. Keep working things down until the angles make sense. You can see I'm taking quite a bit of material off that side to match up with that other feather tip. And then taking material out in the covert area.
I need to take that other feather tip group down a little bit more because I need to lower this primary group that's overlapping it to get rid of that banana bend that I had mentioned earlier. I don't know if that makes sense, but by lowering that other feather tip, it allowed me to take some more material. You can see I still got too much of a bend. I'm going to have to take that down further, which I'm doing now. That allows me to grind down then and get rid of some of that bend and line those feathers up where it makes more sense. So very much a back and forth process to get that area shaped up. Okay, I've got those primaries carved in and kind of where they line up correctly, and now I'm just gonna pencil in kind of where the tertials come back. On both sides. These are a little bit of wing out here. These tertials are kind of tucked under this side. I'll carve those in roughly. Next. Similar process to what we did on the hen here, so I won't show too much of this, but I'm just using that cylindrical burr to create steps in the tertials and then create some separation between the primary group and the tertial group. Then I'm going to switch to this flame-shaped ruby bit and just use that to get in some of these tighter spots and create more definition and clean things up in general. Just give you a view of that after I've done that cleanup work. Now I'm going to use the drum sander and 150 grit sandpaper and just do some general rough sanding of both birds. Then I'm going to hand sand and just eliminate grind marks and rough spots and smooth things out in general. Here's just a quick close-up of the two birds and their current status. I've got the rough carving done on the bodies now, and I'll spend some time sanding on these before the next session. Okay, we'll call that a wrap on session 4 of carving the Bufflehead pair. We've got the bodies rough shaped. I'll do some sanding before the next session, and we'll finish the detailing of the bodies in the next session, get the heads attached, and we're getting close to the home stretch. So until next time, it's Tom Christie signing out. Good carving to you.